Well, now I'd like to welcome Kimberly Guilfoyle, a close advisor to the Trumps and a lawyer herself. Kimberly, so glad to have you here tonight. Listen, you're around the president all the time. You've seen him through one witch hunt after the next. And you know even better than most that it's nonsense like a raid on his home, the political motivations of Tish James that only make him stronger. Talk to us about what you're seeing from the inside. And when do you think that they are going to realize that this only empowers him and his base?
It's really true. I mean, you know, Joe Biden said he was going to unite this country, and he sure did. He united Americans around Donald Trump and against the Democrats. People are smart. They are sick of this. They are sick of the weaponizing of government against innocent people. One time after the next, they have tried to persecute this man and the entire family, and they've come up with nothing. No wrongdoing, no evidence, Russia, collusion, Mueller investigation, everything. It's never ending. The January 6th committee, again, a complete disaster, again, trying to just persecute innocent Americans. And the president rightfully took the Fifth Amendment today. It's designed to protect innocent Americans from government overreach. And that's what he did today. And imagine this happening again today. And he's cooperated with the AG, turning over 36,000 documents. So there's been cooperation all throughout all of these investigations, time and time again. That's why the raid, the break-in to the president's home was totally unwarranted and un-American. They had no right to go there and break in when, if they needed a document, they could have simply subpoenaed it and requested the document. And in fact, the president secured that location and the premises with a padlock that they went ahead and then broke into his safe, broke into that room. What reason, and there better be a good one, that they think that they had to go in there under cover of night and basically go in and ransack the president's house, go through the first lady's closet, drawers, all of the above. It's outrageous. They also wouldn't allow the attorney that was there on the scene, Christina Bobb, to actually go in and witness what was going on. She requested to see the search warrant. They didn't want to show it to her. They held it finally back at a distance, didn't get a copy of it. It's outrageous that this could be going on in this country. And Americans are fed up. They have had enough of this. And it is turning this country into some kind of bizarre banana republic. And this is not the America that we want to wake up to every morning and go to bed at night, knowing that our freedoms, our constitutional rights are being protected and that laws are being upheld.
Well, Kimberly, you can at least thank these people, as sick as it is. I saw that Eric Trump posted on Truth Social that you saw record fundraising as a result. So obviously the voters are driven. Trump supporters are even more driven by this. But it's funny to see the media's response, you know, having spent years in media, how they react to these sort of things, how they think this is finally the gotcha moment where they're going to take Trump down. And this is how Rachel Maddow had reacted to it on her program the other night. Watch.
Tomorrow is the day when you're going to want to buy the physical copy of the newspaper. You're going to want to buy it and fold it carefully, maybe put it in a little archival paper or parchment if you don't have that. Just put it away someday.
Get the newspaper.
It's Trump derangement syndrome all over again between Rachel Maddow, Shifty Schiff, Letita James, whose literally whole focus and purpose in life, okay, is to try to get Donald Trump. She campaigned on that very premise. Meanwhile, the city of New York is turned into complete garbage. There's record crime, people being murdered on the streets, but she's holed up in her office, okay? Crazy Letita James plotting against an innocent man and trying to put the president and the kids in jail. It's insane.
Well, and Kimberly, I think we all realize this, especially the voters out there. President Trump has been very vocal. He believes the establishment isn't really after him. They're after me. They're after you. They're after all of us. But he's just the one in the way. Talk to us about the message that this raid, this whole witch hunt we're seeing, what it sends to the American people, and how the political establishment views their ability to exercise their right to vote for who they want elected to public office.
You know, all Americans should be outraged, because if they can do it to a former president of the United States and break into his house and take his things, They can do it to you. And the president wisely said they didn't just do this to him, they did it to all of us. And you have to actually sit back and think, is this the kind of country you want to be in? Is that the kind of person, Joe Biden, that you want in the White House? And I don't believe for a minute that he didn't have any advanced knowledge. Of course they did. That's not the way these things work when you go into a former president's home, again, which is unprecedented in American political history. Every American should be outraged about this. But I'll tell you what, the president is so tough, so strong, and so smart, and he loves the American people. And I campaign and will go all across the country with him, meeting everybody. And the support for the president is literally unprecedented. It's more than 2016. It's more than 2020. So these people, their worst living nightmare is President Trump back in the White House. Well, it's about to happen.
Kimberly, I'm curious to get your take on this because Trump has mentioned this on Truth that perhaps there's a possibility that maybe something was planted down there at Mar-a-Lago. Would you say, what's your take on that?
I think he's very wise to think that. I wouldn't put it past them whatsoever. They lied and said there was evidence of Russian collusion. They tried to impeach this man how many times? They'll do anything. They'll say anything. They'll make things up. While they were there, they didn't allow anybody to supervise what they were doing. And they specifically requested to turn off the security cameras. Why? Because they didn't want to be caught with what they were doing. How do you know there weren't listening devices planted or evidence planted there? It's something that has to be investigated and checked out, and we want to see the affidavit and what was their probable cause to be able to go in there and break into the president's home.
And Kimberly, I understand, obviously, the Trump family, you're all outraged by this. A lot of Americans are as well, but perhaps a silver lining in all of it. I think, in my opinion, it would have been great to see that announcement that Trump's running in 2024 as soon as this came out, as soon as that raid happened. But it sounds like that announcement is possibly coming soon. He's got to be running after something like this. Am I right?
Yeah, it's so motivating. I hope to God that he runs. This country deserves a phenomenal president, a fighter, someone who's fierce and loyal and smart and gets things done. You see now, everyone sees what happened to this country and quickly the collapse under Joe Biden. Look back just a few short years ago when President Trump was in office and we had soaring economic heights, record numbers, the lowest unemployment ever. Everything was going so well under President Trump. We were respected on the world stage and with foreign leaders. And now look at it. Look at what happened in Afghanistan. Look at the inflation. Look at the gas prices. I mean, for the love of God, there's not even baby formula enough in this country to feed children. That is not the America that we want. And we're hearing it from people who weren't even Trump supporters to begin with. They're giving money. They're donating. They're saying, I'm going to support President Trump. And they are begging him to run in 2024. And I know he loves the American people so much. So with the help of God, he's going to take care of us.
Well, we are eagerly awaiting that announcement. Kimberly, we thank you. We thank everybody at Team Trump for all that you do for fighting the good fight. Our best to everyone over there. And please give our best to the president as well. Thanks for your time.
I will. Thank you, Jen.
J.P. Morgan's CEO is warning that an economic hurricane is coming. Are you preparing? If you don't do anything, your 401k could be a 201k, and that is not good. So call our trusted friends at Lear Capital. For 25 years, Lear has helped investors own gold to protect against market chaos. It's a good thing. They can help you too. Get your information and up to $15,000 in bonus IRA gold. Just call this number, 800-880-4300. That's 800-880-4300.